Welcome to Midlife Schmidlife, the online community for listeners who want to redefine the middle years and recreate their lives lived to the fullest. Join our host, Liz Applegate, as she interviews guests over the age of 40 who are turning their maybe somedays into today and going after their dreams. Let's get the party started.
Hey Schmidlifers, welcome to episode 12 of the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. I'm your host, Liz Applegate, your transformative life coach and midlife strategist, helping women redefine the middle years to recreate a life filled with passion and purpose. I want to welcome all the new Midlife Schmidlife listeners, and I'm waving a hello to all you returning listeners. I really appreciate you sharing the Midlife Schmidlife message with others, and I am just blown away every time I look at everyone who is downloading and listening. I just so appreciate you all. Now, don't forget to head over to courageinaction.telesummit.com to sign up to receive Courage in your inbox beginning September 12th. I'm participating in this project with other life coaches where we interview special guests from all over the world to talk about taking courageous steps in our lives. This is such a great, it's just so positive and it's just so inspirational, and I don't want you to miss out on that. So be sure to go over to courageinaction.telesummit.com. For 11 days, you will receive an email and you will be able to click over, watch the video. There are some audio interviews as well, and it is just such a great thing, and I'm so honored to be a part of this. So don't forget to head over there right now to do that. Also, I want to remind you that next week is the first installment of the series that I have going on in September and October called the Midlife Toolbox series, where I'm bringing on experts to give their advice around focus areas of health, style, career and business, self-care, and relationships. I am so excited about this series, and I want you to be sure to head over to midlifeschmidlife.com and get on the insiders list for tips from this series. It is just going to be a wonderful 2 months, and I cannot wait to share all these experts with you. Today's guest is Vanessa Soto. Now, Vanessa is also participating in the Courage in Action Telesummit with me, so I was really excited to have her come and talk about her new project called the Side Passion Project. And I'm also excited to share that she is actually launching a new podcast starting in September. September is going to be an awesome month, if you ask me. I am so excited for the podcast, and I'm so excited for her to share her midlife ta-da and how she came to be so passionate about sharing her message with others. So let's head on over and meet Vanessa. Hello, Schmidlifers. I am here today with my guest, Vanessa Soto. Vanessa is a marketing executive, life and business coach, a single mom of a teenager, and founder of the Side Passion Project. By weekdays, she develops digital advertising campaigns for a Fortune 500 company, and during the weekend, she coaches, blogs for the Huffington Post, and produces the upcoming, I'm so excited, Doing It on the Side podcast. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks for having me.
So excited to have you, and I'm so excited that you are going to be launching your podcast. That is actually going to be launching in September, and that just makes me so excited. So
I'm excited too. I have been talking to so many cool people, and it's really fun actually to be on the other side of the microphone tonight talking to you.
Yeah, I understand that. I really do. I do understand being on the other side. So for our listeners, Vanessa and I actually attended the same coach certification program, which is the Courageous Living Coach Certification. Vanessa actually graduated a year before me, and I have had the pleasure of meeting her and working with her. And then we've also taken some podcasting classes together, so it's just been really great. I was so excited when she wanted to be on the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. So yeah, Vanessa, the Side Passion Project. So tell me a little bit about that. What is that about?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, a couple years ago, I decided to get trained as a life coach, and I've been doing that on the side of my full-time job in marketing, as you described as well, for a couple years. And about maybe 6 months ago or so, I started thinking about how one of the things that kind of I had really like discovered through this journey of doing my coaching was that doing the coaching in addition to my full-time job had actually created this like greater sense of fulfillment throughout both my job and my life and in my family and everything. And I thought, I wonder if there are other people out there who are pursuing like side projects and side businesses and finding, you know, some kind of unexpected fulfillment there. And so that led to this idea of the Side Passion Project, which is really a community of people who are, in fact, you know, pursuing things on the side and finding, you know, some kind of interesting result from that. And as you mentioned, it's evolving into a podcast that I'll be launching in September, and I am super excited about that. So that's kind of a little bit about the Side Passion Project. I think honestly it means something different to like every person who has a project, but that's kind of the gist of it.
Right. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be starting a business. Is that true?
No, it's all kinds of things. Like I've been talking to people who are everything from like, I'm just thinking of a few recent interviews, an improv actor who's a software developer during the day. I talked to someone who's working on one of the political campaigns and their regular job is in like branding and marketing. And then also people who have more of a side business. There's a woman who's a teacher and educational consultant, and she's developed like a whole product line that's related to like learning activities for kids. And then there was a guy who's started his own wine business, and he's an advertising copywriter during the day. So just like a really wide range of things. And so not just businesses, but also not just what you might imagine like strictly creative pursuits. Because I think a lot of people think it's like people who are doing art. And it really is like whatever their art is to them, you know, which, you know, might be a business, might be someone's art.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I find in starting my business, so I started my business on the side. Don't know if you knew that or not, but yeah, so I was working full time for a very busy nonprofit as the marketing manager, and then started providing virtual support through marketing and technology for entrepreneurs on the side. And so from there, it's just kind of interesting how it's evolved, but that was enabled me to go out and working on my own. And then I became a life coach, and now I'm the founder of Midlife Schmidlife and talking to you.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I find actually is people have these kind of puzzle piece stories where like, well, first I did this and then I did this and that led to this. And I think honestly, it's kind of about following curiosity, right? It's like following that thing you're interested in that you don't get to do in your regular job and just following it because it doesn't need to like pay the bills or, pay for sending your kids to college. It's more the like that extra thing that makes you feel more fulfilled.
So something that I know that I got asked a lot when I was working full time and then also building my side project is how do you manage that with being a single mom and, being a mom and being busy? How have you made that happen?
Well, I think it's different for every person. For me, I'm the kind of person who really likes to have a project. So I kind of thrive on having a variety of different things going on. But I saw when I was first doing my coach training, as you described, that by having this like kind of other focus area that I almost like optimized all my time more. I mean, there was definitely a stretch in there where I was doing like a little too much because of the schedule was pretty rigorous at the time. But since then, I've found that it's like in the time that maybe I would have previously just, I don't know, done something that wasn't, terribly important is when I'm fitting in like my business stuff. Like Saturday mornings is a big time for me. I always wake up early anyway, and I can get a bunch of stuff done by 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and then go on with the rest of my day. So this is the kind of thing where I try not to let it take over too much,
Right.
but instead fill those chunks of time where those are like my free time to begin with, if that makes sense.
Right, right. No, and it is very true. I think that I think that if one thing, I mean, there were many, many great things that going through the training taught me, but what I noticed as well was really how much time of course, I thought I was busy, but then when you add on something like that and the dedication that it takes, I really began realizing how much time I was wasting.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah. Right, right. And so then you find these pockets of time well, gee, surfing Netflix at this time is not really a good idea because I should be working on, something that's really important to me.
But don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not like I'm not still like surfing Facebook or, doing all that.
Right.
But yeah, I think in general, I've found a way for it to fit into my life. But one of the things that I talk about a lot with people who I'm interviewing for the podcast, or like this question comes up with me as well. Like people will ask me like, well, you will kind of say you have time for this, but like I don't have time to do these other projects. And honestly, like my project is not about requiring that people have side projects. It's really about like if it's something for you that you feel like you'd like to bring into your life, then you find the time for it. Like my sister has 2 young kids under 5. She's not creating any more side projects. It's like it's just not the time in her life. So I think it's also that for me, as when I started getting into doing some of these other things on the side, my daughter was getting older. She was getting into junior high, and she didn't need me as much, and she was more independent. That kind of thing too.
Yeah. Exactly. And actually, that was going to be my next question was, do you feel that it was possible because of the time in life where you are?
Yeah, I really, really do. Like, I'm a firm believer in the concept of seasons of life. And I think sometimes you might even go through, multiple seasons even in one year. But there are times when things are right for you, and there are times when they just might not be. And I think also with any side project, one of the great things about it is that there's a lot of flexibility in it. If it's a side business where you do have an intention to, gain some income from it, and maybe you have clients, that kind of thing, like with coaching, you can scale it, right? Like you might put more emphasis into it for a period of time, and then in the future, maybe a little bit less if things are going on. You might, it might be a little harder because people are actually paying you, but in general, something that's on the side, I mean, the goal is that it's going to be flexible and that you can kind of turn it on or turn it down a little bit.
Right. And don't you feel that when it's something that is coming from this place of, I mean, well, you called it the passion, you're passionate about it. You want to do it. It's something that you are just, I don't know.
You want to make time for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was how I found, people really couldn't understand how I was working sometimes more than 40 hours a week, and then coming home and working on my business. And what is so hard to explain is that there just was something in me that it didn't really seem like it was work. It didn't matter to me that I wasn't watching TV, or, maybe I was foregoing some things that people couldn't understand. But to me, it was something that was really important and something I loved doing. And I kind of feel like that's a good measure in so many things. Like, how do you feel when you're doing something, embarking on something?
For sure. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who joined me on my podcast, and we were having that same conversation. It's like, if you love the thing that you're doing, you'll make time for it because you get something back from it. And it's like it almost gives you fuel for like the rest of your life. Like there are phases when my day job is really hectic. Like I'm heading into a phase like that right now. And it's the same time as I'm planning to launch the podcast. I didn't really intend it to go that way, but that's how it's looking. And, part of me is like, okay, what things can I scale back if I need to? And it's not because I'm working on the podcast like during my work day. It's more like at the end of the day, I'm more tired and I have less energy and I need to refuel for like work. So, I'll think to myself, okay, what can I adjust or, what can I take out of a weekend so that I can maybe have like a solid day to work on something? And then sometimes I almost found that it's actually taking a break from the side project and doing something totally different, or like saying, this weekend I'm not going to work on that at all. I'm just going to, go to the beach or go out of town or, something like that. Because there's just different things that you need to be able to, at least for me, keep all those different pieces feeling like they like work together versus getting out of whack, in one area.
Right. So yeah, very true, very true. And it's definitely important to take that break. I mean, even if it's something that you love, you can get into this place where it's all consuming, and then all of a sudden it turns into work kind of thing. So you can very easily turn a hobby into work.
Well, yeah. And I think sometimes it's a good thing, right? Maybe there's like a natural connection point. But for myself, since I'm very like project oriented and I do marketing in my day job. So like, for instance, like marketing my coaching business was always this little like tricky spot for me where I could spend the whole weekend on it. And then maybe by Sunday evening, I'm a little bit like, wow. I got a lot done and I did enjoy it, but I also could have benefited from some downtime.
Right.
Right. You learn as you go, I think.
Yes. So true. So true. Yes. Yes. So this is Midlife Schmidlife, and I always get to ask the very uncomfortable question of, so how old are you now that you've started this project?
Oh, it's so funny that, I was still kind of like, am I midlife? Like, is this the podcast for me? And I was like, yeah, I guess I am. I'm 43, so I'm clearly over 40. I don't think of myself as midlife, so I'm also kind of like interested in that concept of like, what does that? I still feel like I'm just getting started in a lot of ways.
I turned 50 this year, and I still feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it is interesting because, so Midlife Schmidlife is actually kind of a play because I hate the word midlife because it is very negative. So, that was kind of my way of having fun with it because, yeah, definitely. So, but yeah, just so that we got your age out of the way. So I was chatting with someone and we were saying how, well, we will always be 29 at heart. So there you go.
I feel like I'm always like somewhere between like 17 and 25.
Yes.
I don't know.
Me too.
It feels really recent. Like I can tap into like where I was then, like really easily still.
I am the same way. I'm glad you said that because I've always felt like I was the only one who ever was able to do that. I think once my kids started hitting that age is when it was like, whoa, wait.
Yeah,
wait a minute.
It's so true. My daughter's 15 and some of the things that I hear coming out of my mouth lately, I'm just like, whoa, like I just said that. Like just, I feel like I just heard them said to me like yesterday. And, I was my daughter and my mom and dad and I all just took a trip to Europe together, which was really fun and also kind of like funny because it was like 3 generations traveling together. And there were a couple times where, my daughter was being like a total teenager and I was kind of complaining or saying something to my mom, and my mom would just say like, you did the exact same thing, and then tell me something that I had done that I just don't have any recollection of, but like I'm sure I did it. Like I must have been. Just doesn't. So I don't remember that part. I only remember the other part.
Yeah, you remember your perspective of it. So, yeah, Yeah, it's funny how that happens.
Totally.
So, what are some of the challenges that you've found in starting this? But well, I mean, that could be anything. That could be, starting, getting your becoming a life and business coach. It could be starting the podcast, starting this project. What are some
gosh,
challenges?
so many.
I know. I was going to say you're like me. You're very multi-passionate and like having so much going on. So,
Well, I mean, the biggest thing for me is that until really only about 3 years ago, I was solely doing my day job in marketing, raising my daughter. Before that, like, I was married, I got divorced, there was stuff with all that. But I had pretty much set aside a lot of kind of maybe creative type interests and things like that. Just because like working and motherhood and family complications had, just taken the majority of my time. And so one of the biggest challenges for me was that once I first started heading down the path of first the life coach training path, that was like the first thing. Kind of that whole idea was kind of calling my name, and I decided to, just kind of follow it. And that was a big deal for me to just do something that didn't necessarily have like a pragmatic reason to it. Like I created a lot of things in my head, like it was going to become my new full-time career and stuff like that at the time. Right. But really the biggest challenge was just like looking at something as just something that I was doing because it was interesting. And I think that's something I've learned in retrospect. And from kind of just redeveloping that ability to just be interested in things, I've learned like so much. And I feel like I have kind of this little bit of like a new, like fresh start with life. But it was really challenging, like at the time, because it was super uncomfortable. And one of all the stuff that goes along with it is like feeling like a beginner was really hard for me with like coaching. That was really hard for me to not be like the person in the room who is really comfortable like giving the presentation. Like that's how I am at my job. I'm like, I've been doing it for a long time. I'm really comfortable giving the presentation. With coaching, I actually got assigned like a focus area. I think you'll probably remember from training, we all had a focus area of what we were kind of like, what were we working on ourselves during the time that we were in training, what were we learning about ourselves. And mine was releasing the attachment to confidence, which was like so big to me, was just being a beginner, doing things like being on a phone call and coaching somebody live with everybody listening. It was so huge. I mean, it was some of that stuff for me. Like I can look back on it. I know it was, I almost thought I couldn't, do it. And then when I did lots of new things, every time it was like, get over the hump was like, wow, the enormity of how good it felt to kind of get over the hump on something that was so overwhelming and scary was really important thing for me. So those were some of the things that I think opened me up to be able to like this year get an idea and kind of go, I think I'm going to start a podcast on this topic, and wanting to get out there and talk about the idea of having side projects in addition to your full-time job and your life and like the fulfillment that you can get out of there. And that I wanted to change the conversation, because the conversation right now is like either, quit your job and follow your passions, which is like not practical for most people, right? And can be really discouraging, because maybe there is something you want to pursue and you're like, well, I can't do that because I have a family to support, like that really basic stuff. And I wasn't seeing other people out there talking about it as like a choiceful thing that you could do. Like I'm going to kind of intentionally follow this thing on the side. And I knew I wanted to talk about that idea, and I wouldn't have been able to talk about it from, talk about an idea that I had just come up with at the same like comfort level now if I hadn't gone through that whole phase of being a beginner and everything. Because now it's like being a beginner, I can enjoy it. Like it's fun. There's curiosity that I have about it, but that has not always been the case.
Well, and I think that there's a place in our life where, especially when we have children, where we are so focused on caring and our, caring for the children and caring for the marriage and the home and all that stuff. And then plus when you're working, you've got that. And it's almost as if our focus is I feel that for me, at least, I held on to those places where I felt confident. And it was really hard, to be in this place where I think at midlife, over 40, where things are changing, your daughter's getting older. Now you have more time, and it opens up these possibilities. But what is sad to me is how many people just kind of stay in that closed-minded, holding on to those places where they're comfortable, and not pushing those little edges of where our fear line may be. So it's interesting that you shared that, and we're able to see how what is interesting to me is I did a solo cast on fear, and that's what I talk about is, just being able to kind of push that boundary just a little bit at a time. And then pretty soon you realize how that step outside is, the next time, your fear boundary is out even further. And it sounds like because of that, your fear boundary is pushed out because of all these experiences.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's because it's not like I don't still have fear about doing new things at all. And I, very much believe that I've learned over time and also through our coach training that there's a lot of signals actually that you get from that fear, right? And in the past, if I felt afraid of something, I took it as a signal to turn away and turn and go the other way, straight. Like that was the only way that I responded to things that, that were scary. Or I guess I would probably, find a way to look at them that wasn't really looking at them, kind of like just to kind of, cope or manage. But yeah, now when fear comes up, I recognize it, like I see it and I feel it. And sometimes I don't want it to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I spend a lot of time thinking like, how can I get out of this situation? Because I really don't want to do that. It's making, I'm afraid of doing it. But that I have a lot more kind of tools to use to kind of work through it, because I do remind myself of all that goodness, on the other side. And I think I try to, just keep on trying new things and not see the fear that comes up as like a problem, and instead as like more a signal, like actually if you're afraid of it, probably means it's pretty important to you and you should do it. And I tell people that too, and they're just like, ugh.
Right, exactly. Something that came back to me when you were talking too is when that beginner, like being a beginner, and how frustrating that can be. It's so frustrating when you have the confidence in something.
I mean, I think the concept of being a beginner, it's so interesting when there was this situation in my life coach training where I did need to coach somebody live and everyone's going to listen. It was on this conference call. And here I had this focus area for myself of releasing my attachment to confidence. The person who showed up on the other end of the phone call and brought like a topic for coaching that I needed to coach her on, her topic was on being a beginner. And it was like I had to coach somebody from my own place of struggle. And it was almost like a gift, right? I could hear myself giving the guidance and listening to her questions and asking her questions and listening to her responses. It was almost like I was like living right in it. Right.
Yeah, it's always like do as I say and not as I do kind of thing. So.
Yeah, so it was like a double learning experience in like 45 minutes.
Right, and then to hear that back too. I mean, to hear maybe someone say to you possibly things that you have either said or felt before. It's always so different to hear it coming back to you, I think.
Oh yeah, it really was. And it was actually even somebody who was a friend, everybody in the program, become friends with them. But it was somebody who was a little more experienced as a coach than myself. She'd actually like been in business for a little while. And, there were some things about her that I admired. And to hear her bring the same thing that I struggled with, it was like even more like the things that are brought to you are things you most need to hear. Like that was one of those moments.
Right. Right. Yeah. So what has been, the response from your family and friends in branching out of your comfort zone and trying these new things?
In the beginning, I was so self-conscious about it. Like I thought that everybody was going to have some kind of thing to say or some kind of negative opinion. And from the very beginning, it's only been positive. Like all the people who I thought might be a little bit critical, maybe there were a few people who didn't totally get it, but nobody was like ever critical. And as it's evolved, and I've tried like different variations and evolving now to doing the Side Passion Project, I feel like people have come to think of me as like this person like that does these kind of like, I don't know, these kind of weirdly larger than life things. And for me, right. I don't see it that way. I see it just as like almost like this is where I am in my life right now, is trying new things. And for so long, I didn't. It feels more like me to be like this now than maybe how I was before. But I think for other people, maybe they saw me all along as being somebody who did big things. I just didn't see myself that way. It was just, which has been interesting. Like even I have this, my mom gave my sister and brother and I, or like everybody got gifts this Christmas, and they were wrapped up in these like fabric tea towels that had like statements printed on them. And mine was like Glinda the Good Witch, and it said something like, "You always had it inside you." It was some like I can't remember the exact quote, but it was that it was basically that idea of like it was always there, like you just needed to find it for yourself, kind of thing. And I think that's still something that even like right in this moment when I'm kind of talking about this, and I'm still kind of toying with, is like where I lost it along the way. I'm not quite sure, but I did. But I found it, and that's the important part.
Yeah. And what's interesting is when we can look back to when we were kids, say 6, 8 years old, and I don't know, there's so much goodness in that time in our life of just being open to, just being open and interested and curious. And it's kind of before opinions of others start to come in. We're just living in this, I don't know, just such a fantastic, brightly colored world, I think. And then somewhere along the line, we do tend to take in other opinions, and we start to form our own. And I've always loved how, to me, this time in my life has been kind of reminding myself of being back there. Just, I don't know how to explain that, but that just came to me when you were saying that. So
it's really true. And I can think back to a couple times. Like when I was doing my coach training, where you had to look back on times in your life, maybe there was like a pivotal time or something. And for me, it's a little older. It's more like the teenage years. And I actually wrote a blog post on this about, I don't know, sometime last fall, I remember. And it was really, reflecting on a time in my life when I was a teenager, and I had all these, different creative things that I did. Like I took graphic design classes at this local art school, and it was like it's called Art Center School of Design, and it's a really good school. And I took these like classes for high school kids, and I got scholarships and stuff. And then I was a journalist in high school. I was editor of the paper, and I did all this stuff, and it didn't ever occur to me that like I couldn't do those things. I just did them. Right. And something happened. Like I'm not sure exactly what, but I started to notice like, oh, there was these other people in art school who were really good. Or, I went away to a summer program in journalism, and I met kids from like these like prep schools on the East Coast who were like real journalists.
Right.
And Then when I went off to college, I mean, it wasn't like I went into a shell or anything, but I did veer away from some of that stuff. And those are the years I think that ended up that those ideas closed off to me. And then I ended up doing a job that is peripherally related to being creative. I worked in ad agencies and in marketing. And it's interesting because there's always this line between the people who are the creatives, like literally you call them the creatives.
Exactly.
And then the people who are like on the business side, and I was on the business side. And so starting my coaching business was actually the time frame when I let some of those ideas fall away, like building my own website and doing the graphic design. Was like, well, I'm not going to hire someone. I can do it. And I love doing it. So just, different, and all the writing like I used to do in high school and stuff. It just kind of brought it out from under wraps, like a lot of the things I had loved when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's that same thing we were talking about earlier about, just doing something and then realizing, oh yeah, well, I'm good at this. And, so these places where you may have felt like you were a beginner and then realizing that you did have this in you all along. That's making me smile, actually, because I can relate so much to your story as far as that place and then starting to judge what I was doing compared to other people. And I think it's just been, for me, a real gift of this age to just kind of realize that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, for sure.
And doing something that you love is really the most important thing.
And I think doing something that you love, or just if you love something, it's almost flipping. It's like, if you love something, do it. And I think also for a lot of people, they're not really sure what the thing is that they love to do. And like the people that I talk to for the podcast, they tend to have a project that they're working on, a thing they found. But, I also want to be there for people who haven't yet kind of uncovered that thing. And I think it's like, whatever thing that you like is like okay. And if you get joy out of it, like do more of it. And then maybe it will lead you to some other thing that you like even more. Like, I think there can be, the last thing I want to do is create like new pressure to like have a passion and turn it into a project, because that is really not the point. It's really just about, if you have a passion, for sure, like follow that and do something with it. But generally just like taking those baby steps and noticing what's around you. I even, I talked to somebody recently, and I've kind of shared this idea a few times since, which is, how do you find your thing and like the thing that you're meant to do? And sometimes it's just paying attention to what's around you. Like, have a little notebook with you, or have a note on your iPhone or whatever, where you jot down things that, for whatever reason in that moment, strike you as like something you might want to do. And sometimes you might be surprised to go back and look at that list and see that thing that you jotted down might actually turn into something.
I can see too where people have a hard time knowing what it is they would want to do. I think, like we talked about before, about holding on to these comfort levels and then all of a sudden finding the time. And we've changed so much. We still think we're this 20 or 17 to 25-year-old, but when we look at the changes that we've gone through, I like a lot of different things now than I did when I was 17 to 25.
Yeah, it's true. And I didn't actually start out with the writing or the graphic design stuff. Like, that came later. But the thing that I started with, that I kind of think as like the starting point to trying new things, was I decided to take a class at a local college. And it was this topic, which is positive psychology. And I had read something, you come across some blog. I had read something and I was like, what is this? And somehow I found out about this class. And it took me about a year, or maybe more, maybe like a year and a half, to actually like sign up for the class. And the class was all about like finding out what your strengths are and then cultivating them, and just kind of like leaning into your strengths and basically like doing more of what you enjoy in your life. Right. And a really basic idea, but it was kind of based on a lot of scientific theory and stuff. And that first class kind of gave me a a new window into two things. One was it shook up my routine a little bit. Like I literally, had to go to a class like after work on a Monday night, and, I had to like take this different route to work, and it just kind of like threw things off a little bit. And for that 3 hours that I was there, I was learning new things that I could think about like throughout the week, and reading books and just like talking about new ideas. And it wasn't like an area that I had been interested in the past, and it's not something that I've ended up, doing something with, but I was interested in it in that moment, and I followed the interest, and I took the class, and it led to just like multiple doors opening. So you kind of also never know what thing is going to lead to the next thing, and then the next thing after that.
Very true. And it's that curiosity that you talked about before, just being interested, hey, this class seems interesting, or this concept, so I want to learn more. And we live in such a time when that is just really so easy when you think about it, right? I mean, oh my gosh, we can learn about anything.
Well, and I remember thinking like, oh, I could just order these books that are on the syllabus on Amazon, or I could just read some more blogs on this topic. But the idea of like signing up for a class, paying money for it, and like I had to hire a babysitter later into the night, like it was a thing. And I feel like that was also an important part of it. And then also at work, once I was taking this class, I had to make sure that I got out by a certain time on Monday nights. So I told my coworkers, I'm like, oh, I'm taking this class. They wanted to know what it was. And I told them, but I was kind of like a little bit, not embarrassed, but I was self-conscious of describing this class because, I don't know, it felt kind of personal to me. And also, I don't know, something at the time I still felt like just uncomfortable about doing stuff like that. And I told them about the class, and there was a couple of coworkers like all in this one place. They were all like, oh my God, that sounds so cool. I'd love to take that class. Yeah. And it was so surprising to me because I don't know, I expected people to say like, oh, that sounds weird. Wait, why are you doing that? And it was the opposite. Right. So it was lots of learnings along the way.
Right. And I think we're so guilty of not wanting to talk about these things that either we're interested in or that we're going through, not realizing that the person next to you is going through the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's so true. Like a lot of the people that I've been talking to for the podcast, they don't have a lot of other people to talk to maybe about their project, or no one's really asked them a lot of questions about their journey to finding it, or they don't get to talk about what their big dreams are for it. And it's really fun to talk to them because I see it as like an opportunity for them to kind of explore more what it means to them in their life and share that with other people. And hopefully like other people can go like, oh, wow, I could do that. Right. Because most people think maybe a little smaller of themselves, at least, non like narcissistic people think a little smaller of themselves, and other people are actually looking at them going like, wow, that's like really big and cool thing that you're doing. And inside our heads, we're kind of more like, well, I'm just doing this like little thing, it's not really a big deal. But it kind of is like a big deal, and it's good to talk to other people and get some like feedback and affirmation. Yeah. Sometimes.
I can't help but think about what a great example you are to your daughter.
I don't know if she would agree, because she teases me all the time. She's like, oh, coaching. Like, oh, the quotes on Instagram. She's rolling her eyes. Oh, you're interviewing somebody? Okay.
Right.
But I think you're right. I mean, like, she'll like say to my mom like that she's, I think she is a teenager, right?
Right.
She thinks that her mom does like weird stuff, but she also recognizes that, I do a lot of different things than what her friends' moms do. And I think she likes that. And just maybe she doesn't appreciate it at the same level, but I think with with time, maybe she'll look back and be like, wow, my mom like actually was doing some interesting stuff. But right now, mostly she's embarrassed by the quotes on Instagram.
I have a feeling she's going to look at you and realize how cool you are. So
we'll see.
Well, and I just think too, it's just an example of being a woman and not sticking with like the status quo of having to be at that corporate grind, and not bringing in things into your life that fulfill you and fill you up. And I just think that is such a good example to give, and I wanted you to know that. So.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think that showing her like just a range of different types of ways to be like a woman, to be, a working adult person is important, because whether she does anything that looks anything like me, I think it gives her the chance to just do whatever ends up being right for her. And she's really different from me in that she's like a math and science kid, and she's like super into sports. Like she does karate, and she's training to be a karate instructor. I mean, that's like, she could not be more different from me. Right. But at the same time, I think she can have a more kind of expansive picture of maybe what her own life can piece together to be interesting for her from seeing me as an example, maybe.
So what are you most grateful for right now in just being in this time of your life and having these new opportunities?
I think I'm pretty grateful right now for this just kind of willingness to try things. And like with the podcast and talking to people and interviewing them about what they're up to, and, and putting a podcast out there, talking to you on your podcast. Mm-hmm. Just, I am really grateful for where I am at this point in my life, and just being able to do some of these things. And I think that comes from knowing that in the past, I would have thought it was for someone else. I would have been afraid to do it, or maybe I would have it wouldn't even have crossed my mind. So I think I'm grateful for like where I am in this place in my life, and just like all the interesting things that I find are surrounding me and that I'm pursuing.
Yeah. You gave some great advice earlier for someone who is maybe feeling like they want to find their passion, and they don't know where to start. You gave some great advice on that. What would be some advice that you would give for someone who maybe wanted to try, or maybe they knew what the passion was, or they wanted to try a new passion, but they had, what we talked about earlier as far as that being a beginner, and they wanted to have that willingness to try new things, but they were just really kind of afraid?
Well, I think it starts with just allowing yourself to have those feelings. Like there's letting yourself feel like, yeah, I feel afraid. I feel scared of trying this new thing, but I also want to do it. And holding on to both of those feelings at one time, I think is something that it takes a little bit of practice. It's still something I find myself practicing, all the time. But otherwise, you look at something and you see it just for being something you're afraid of, or just for being something you're interested in. And the fact is, like, they come together, and do it anyway.
Tell us a little bit about your plans for the podcast that's coming up, launch dates, anything like that.
Oh, sure. So I'm planning to launch after Labor Day, so I can't say the exact date because that'll be up to iTunes.
Right.
But like, as I've mentioned, I've been interviewing people all summer long and getting everything ready to go. So that's you can expect that for sure coming in September.
Okay, awesome. And I will have everything, the links to your website, which is thesidepassionproject.com, which will, I'm sure, let everyone know when your podcast is up, and information there. I will have that in the show notes, which will be midlifeschmidlife.com/Vanessa. Yeah, Vanessa, I was just so excited to have you here and love talking about being curious and exploring new adventures. And I just really loved having you and appreciate you for coming on board.
Well, it was really fun. I love talking about side projects. It's fun for me, and it was really great to be on the show. Thanks so much, Liz.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for joining me and sharing your story with the Midlife Schmidlife listeners. Don't forget, you can head over to midlifeschmidlife.com/Vanessa to find links to connect with her, as well as to sign up so that you can hear when she launches her podcast. I can't wait to listen, and I just know that it's going to be great. Now, next week is our first installment in the Midlife Toolbox series, so I can't wait to bring that to you next Wednesday. Be sure to head over to the website, midlifeschmidlife.com, and sign up to be on the insiders list for that. And don't forget that the Midlife Schmidlife podcast is now sponsored by Audible. Head over to midlifeschmidlife.com/book to get your 30-day trial of Audible plus a free book download.
Thanks for joining Liz for the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. Remember, some days are never on your calendar until you put them there. Until next time.